I think that we, like I said in private talk, that God kind of wanted us to carry his message that we need to get it together and get it together quickly, or unless it's going to be a COVID.
And yet you did get requests from your label to appeal to more of a Black audience, which resulted in Mother Factory.
Oh, yeah.
And so you did,
Well, kind of, yeah. But see what happened there, we did do that, but then we cut out most of the white audience that we had, which was actually our meat and bread.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because we played here in Atlanta, we played the Electric Ballroom. And Alex Cooley, who actually introduced everybody to who's the guitar players, man? My brain is going away.
Hendrix?
Hendrix, Jimi Hendrix. He was the first one to bring Jimi Hendrix to everybody's musical heart. And he's the one best friend that we've ever had. He was a white guy. He was the one best friend Mother's Finest ever had in the whole world. He's the reason why we came up a little bit easier than we probably could have had if it wasn't for him, because his club seated over 1,500 people, maybe 2,000. And everybody he brought in there, whether it was AC/DC, whether it was the
Aerosmith,
or the Atlanta Rhythm Section, anybody that was hitting records, whether they were a white band or a black band, he would make sure we would be the opening act. So people would see us that wouldn't see us ordinarily, because they wouldn't tend to want to book us because we were so different.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? We were so different that was the only way the doors would open. So the first time we were invited, which is a whole nother story, to go to Europe, Rock Palace.
Yeah.
Rock Palace. Well, Palace, yeah. We got that phone call in the middle of the night of a guy from a radio station in Holland. And he said, and the reason how he got the record was somebody who worked with CBS.
That's who was
pushing, it's a whole nother story, Another Mother Further. So we moved from Mother's Finest to Another Mother Further. It's a lot of story, 50 years.
It's okay.
And
we got time.
We got time.
And Europe was responsible for throwing us that lifeline that we needed.
Well.
Because when we went over in Europe, we didn't have to have any of those obstructions.
Right,
we didn't have to have any of those opinions. As a matter of fact, the more different
the darker
they were,
the
better they liked it. And a lot of our, especially Germany. And this one guy said, yeah, you Mother's Finest made you understand what funk was, because the element, it was still rock, but with the funk in there. And he said, oh, now I get it, which he didn't get, like with George Clinton and groups like that.
Yeah.
Even
Prince had a hard time.
It was a little too deep for them. We understand that, so we brought that to them, and they enjoyed it. They got off on it, and till this day, we have a very, very cool. It's not enormous, but it's substantial.
Well, it's not enormous anymore.
Yeah, before we play all the huge concerts over there, not only Rock Palace, but Pink Pop Festival and a lot of those, and we played with Van Halen and a lot of those bands too, as well.
The only summer, did we ever play with the Stones?
No.
They're the only ones we've never played.
No, we didn't play. They were
not the Stones. That would have been fun though.
Yeah, our era was.
They're still touring. There's time. You can still play with the Stones.
Nah.
I know.
I don't have the energy, man. I gotta be honest. Nah, I keep my little low key gigs where we 500 or 600, 700 people show up and it's fun. I don't need the big concerts anymore. That's all good.
Well, I wanted to talk about Iron Age, which came a little later. What interested me about Iron Age was that you go back to form, where you're back to rock and roll, but you weren't sticking to the 70s rock sounds that had got you where you were. You were making rock sounds that sounded a lot like bands like Genesis or what Glenn Frey was doing in his solo work. You were taking rock and roll along with you, and you continued to evolve as the band you were, which is very interesting to me.
Well, you just said it yourself. We were just evolving as people. Music is very conscious, spiritual spheres on higher levels, to where when you evolve as a person, as a spirit, that has to come through someplace. It has to come through your life, your smile, your work, your love. your instrument, whatever that is, whether it's a voice or whatever your instrument is, it has to come through there if you're evolving. If you stagnate that, then you're not being honest. As a writer, you have to be able to be honest to be a great writer. You have to be able to put your emotions down. You have to be able to sing. So some nights you don't hit the notes, but the emotion is there. The intent is there. You find different ways to sing the same song, but a little bit different so that people enjoy it different. It's the same with your artistry as a band, you know. You have to evolve, and sometimes you stumble, but you know, you got to be bad to be good. You got to be bad to get good. So, I mean, so
well, that was one of the reasons why the band was important, because, you know, we weren't just out there. You know, Joyce is really, really strange because we just before the COVID, she did this huge show called, I'll try to find out what it is. It's called Rock Classic.
Yeah.
Classic and Rock. Or
Rock Classic.
And there was a lot of oldies with goodies and Alice Cooper.
Yeah, Alice Cooper was
headlining the show. And Joyce, she only had to do two or three numbers.
Songs, yeah.
And but she hated it because it wasn't a band. It was 40-piece orchestra, you know what I'm saying? And it came close, but it just, you know, and I digress, because I go back to what she's talking about and doing Iron Age is that's where we were, you know, as a band.
But I didn't hate it though, Doc. I didn't hate it. The only thing I didn't like was that I didn't have my boys with me. I didn't have my guys back there. It was a 40-piece orchestra and it was gorgeous, but my guys weren't there. I didn't have my go-to guys, you know what I mean? Yeah. So that's the only thing that was different. But what was beautiful about it is I got to play these Coliseums again at 10, 12,000 sold out. You know what I mean? It was awesome. It was anyway, that's a whole nother story.
No, well, it's a good segue, because what happens to the band a couple of years later, after you release an album that's only released in Europe, and then the band kind of falters, and Joyce, you go on a solo career you have 2 albums that you release as a solo artist. And this is exactly what you're talking about. What was it like being a solo artist after you had that 15 years with the band?
Mm-hmm.
Not so good, not so happy. Joyce, no happy. Joyce, no happy. No understand Joyce, nobody. You know, because, you know, I didn't, you know, rock fell on me. I didn't fall on rock.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't choose rock. Rock chose me. And it just so happens that I happen to be a little bitty 5'1.5" little chocolate female, you know, with a big voice, and had a great band who understood how to push me. And when you walk out of a situation where you are allowed to create songs, create your vocals, create your persona on stage, because you have that freedom, which we allowed everybody to have. And you walk into a situation where everybody, again, earlier, as I said, they see something in you, but then they want to take that and they want to change it because they figure they can make it better. And in the process of that, they don't understand the essence and they end up ruining what that is, whatever that was they thought was great. Yeah? So that's what happened to me when I stepped away, even though I got the Grammy nomination and all that stuff, but there was no digestion. I ate the food, but I didn't digest it because, you know, that, you know, I go,
it wasn't nourishing.
There was no nourishment in the food that I ate because that they wanted me to be a pop artist. I wasn't a pop artist. I went in and I asked A&M Records, they wanted to say, well, who do you think could produce you? And at the time, Phil Collins was huge. And he had that badass guitar, drum sound that I just truly loved. I just wanted to be in front of that. And I thought he would work because there weren't a lot out there for somebody like me. With the soulful voice, with the funk attitude, and with the to embrace rock, to understand where rock was, to sing the right notes as far as singing rock. So they were trying to make me into something else. That's why I ended up doing the song The Last Time I Made Love with Jeffrey Osborne, who was an R&B artist, but I understood R&B. Doesn't say I wanted to do R&B, but I understood it. And so that was the one that went to #1, was Grammy nominated. But then, you know, God has his own way of telling you you're not in the right place. Because I go to the Grammys and I get out of the limousine and they took pictures, and the next day my picture was on the front of the newspaper with Chaka Khan's name under it.
Oh man.
That was
yeah. You're not in the right place.
And she was frock too.
I was.
She was in
beautiful
all
that day.
white. She had thigh boots on, and she's getting out of this white limo. Chaka Khan. I was like,
Chaka
wow.
Khan looks great. I
Yeah,
mean, you know,
you gotta
so
do that.
I mean, that was an
And
omen
it-
for
and it
me.
happens.
It's an omen. I much rather, okay, so I don't get huge, but I'm happy. I did what I needed to do. The plan was there before I was born. And I walked it. You know, I put one foot in front of the other and I did all the right things. And I always stayed a lady. And I was always conscious of carrying myself in a way that was respectful so that I looked good as far as my country was concerned, as far as my people were concerned. And I always made the band be put in a place to where we were respected. And that was most important to me. You know?
And you came back to the band, 1989, Looks Could Kill, with your son on the record. That's really nice.
Yay! He's a bad boy too.
So
There you go.
Dion's on the record with you. So does this change the experience? You two have been a couple with this band. Like the band was part of your marriage. It's all part of the
Yeah.
same thing and always
Yeah.
has been. And now you bring your
Yes.
son into it. Did that change it, or did it just make it more of the same?
Ooh,
It was
ooh,
we had to save Dion,
yeah.
you know,
Mm.
because you know, that was really, I mean, he was badass. I mean, he definitely could handle a gig, and it was funny because Mo said, "Why are you guys doing this? Just because he's your son?" I said, "No, that's the best drummer we've seen or heard." And not only that, but he knows everything because
Well,
he's
Bibi
been there.
raised him up,
Yeah,
the
and
original drummer.
and it was just logical. That was pretty much what it was about, you know.
But we also saved him from the streets of LA. too.
Yeah, I mean, he was.
Hollywood.
Yeah, he was going in there,
Yeah.
and he's too good a kid, you know. But he could have been sucked down into that dark hole. I mean, he was running around with very talented musicians, but they were just. I mean, they were just.
Yeah, we didn't want that for him.
And he wanted to do it, you know. He really wanted to play with us, you know. So
Dion
We knew-
understood the music.
yeah,
Yeah.
we knew the fears of what's the word? It's not plagiarism.
No, yeah, kind of like, never mind.
But I can't think of the word.
Yeah.
Having too much family, but it was cool, you know. And he turned out to be the best thing for us at that particular time.
We
Yeah,
can't
no.
get rid of him now. by the way.
You know,
That's
we've
good.
tried.
Does-
You better know it, buddy.
So we're about to get into what I think is maybe the most interesting album in your collection. And I'm not sure if he's on it or not, but Black Radio Won't Play This Record, 1992. I want to talk a lot about this record. I find it very interesting. Not only is it incredibly funky and cool in a new way as you continue to evolve, but
Yes.
you're
Okay.
really moving. There's some things like you're really pushing buttons with this one. And it's interesting.
Yeah.
Because that is it's an album that's coming out at a time when there are a lot of albums pushing buttons, but you're pushing buttons in a different way from Public Enemy. It doesn't, you're taking those buttons into enemy territory in a way. I want to talk about the song Like a Negro, if that's okay with you. I want to
Yeah, sure.
Ah,
All of it's cool, man.
I want to read some of the lyrics to that song so that folks can hear it. Like a rebel without a cause, I play my music to no applause, like the blood running through my veins. If I had to do it over, I'd do it all again. Sometimes I find myself acting just like a Negro. Don't get me wrong, it's just a song that had to be sung, a bell that had to be rung, ding, ding. Now,
Wow.
I'm trying to figure out, I have to admit that as a white person, I'm having just a little trouble parsing exactly what you meant by acting like a Negro. So I want you to explain what you meant by that. And who you
Okay. All right. So what happened was we were in Austria,
Yeah.
and we were on a show that was auditioning. It wasn't auditioning. We were auditioning for these big concerts, and there was this young white group, and they were hip hop.
we didn't know they were white. You know.
And no,
At the time, we didn't know.
I think I did. But you know, we're back in the dressing room, and I had this. I saw the group before, and I figured I didn't know what kind of music they played. They were dressed auspiciously. I think they had the hats on, and they had big clothes on, and I was like, wow. And they started going into this hip hop thing, and I'm going, wow. And I just had this vision turning into a Negro. All of this is poof, and then
All of a
I'm just,
sudden,
I'm,
You want to act black.
and because it was so absurd to me at the time, and I don't know, I guess, and putting the shoe on the other foot, it's like, wow, why are they doing it? So,
Yeah.
like a Negro, is you can't get away from it because it's got that thing, and then I start. There's another word said he.
Leave it to the
Yeah,
brothers industry.
right. To start a brand new thing. There was all like some kind of parody on what's real and what's not, and how sometimes how stupid it is,
That we can't respect what each other has.
that we're tearing at this music, and then I wanted to put this awful heavy beat behind it, and that was Dion. That was Dion.
So Dion was in that record.
Yeah, and that was his music, and Joyce and I wrote she wrote that like a rebel without a cause. That was her. That was her story in a minute, like a rebel without a cause, and that was her, and of course she did have a cause, and it was just being pissed. I think
Doing something that people say you can't do or you shouldn't do.
And Niggas Can't Sing was pretty much the start of that, because we were in Columbia, South Carolina, South Carolina, and we were playing at this college bar, and long time ago, and the college students would come in, and they weren't, it wasn't never quite full, and then this one lady, and she was a white lady, and she sat down, and she was tipsy as she could be, and she's like, "Why are you singing this white man's music?" And I was like, "Wow."
Really, you said that?
And then I was, and what goes to my mind every time I even think about the song is, Chuck Berry and Fats Domino and Little Richard, and I'm going, and I'm scratching my head. What part of this am I not getting? Rock and roll it was invented by these people, and then she just wanted to, and she wanted to, and right behind her, this brother says,
"Play that electrified funk."
Electrified funk.
Yeah. Are you okay now?
I am fine. I was just reaching down to get something. Keep going.
I thought you was cracking up.
No, I'm loving this.
Yeah, it was, sometimes I find, I don't know, I just got into that space, that racial thing that just constantly kept me a little
fight.
pissed.
I mean, the whole bell is like when they ring the bell for the fighters to come to the center and duke it out. They say at some point we're gonna have to fix this shit because it's old, it's tired. They respect the music, they love the music. They were trying to be a part of it. They weren't trying to be black. They was just grabbing hold of something that, that made them feel good. They wanted to be a part of that.
Right.
And it's the same way if I wish I could play guitar. I would be a badass heavy metal guitar player.
And not only that, but that was the beginning of our heavy metal experience too.
Yeah.
We had a guitar player, his name was Spacey T, what record did he play on?
He played on another.
Was it like a Black Radio?
He was Black Radio. Yeah.
Okay. And he was just heavy metal. I never seen.
Well, that was our heavy metal MF right there.
Right. He was Spacey T was just heavy metal guitar player, and to this day, he's half Jamaican. He's not half Jamaican, but Rastafarian and half heavy metal guitar player. He can't help himself.
Well, we know a lot of brothers that play bad, just incredible, just stupid ass heavy metal guitar. Well, you'll never see the light of day with them because they ain't gonna let it happen. The system won't let it happen.
Greg Fulton is the best
Chicago
heavy metal guitar player I've ever heard in my life, because he made it sound like symphonic music. Yeah, and the way he played, and he just big kind of fat
He'll
guy.
never get anywhere.
And what was it? Cyclone Temple.
Yeah.
The sketch you wanted. That was the name of that record.
Cyclone
If you have any kind of
metal
vibe, it's kind of scary because he just puts his headphones on my head and he said, "Murdoch, we're on the bus." And we were on a long bus ride, and he says, listen to this, boom, and he slams these headphones on me. And then he was playing Cyclone Temple.
Your head blew up, right?
And yes, I was just done. But nobody was as good as he was ever.
It doesn't
you
matter.
know.
It's never
And then, but he did poison me with that. With
he poisoned
a
me
little
too.
bit of
I used to listen to him just before we go to the gig, play a gig and put my head in the right place. Even though I was doing Baby Love, I still had that heavy metal guitar going around in my head.
and Metallica.
Oh, Metallica, get over it.
Metallica, our granddaughter.
Oh,
We were living up in Malibu,
I
and,
taught her how to headbang on
and
Metallica.
Joyce is teaching our granddaughter how to headbang
Yeah.
to Metallica. What part of this doesn't
Right.
is weird, you know? But we were there. That's who we were. And of course, he's one of my favorite heavy metal groups. When they,
Metallica?
yeah, absolutely.
Well, they made it worldwide. They lost their underground audience, but that's how the system works. But they gained prominence worldwide.
Yeah, who cares? I don't care. about
Anyway,
that.
I don't know. They're still good. I still
They're
love them.
fantastic.
They're
But,
fantastic.
Yeah.
Joyce, I want to talk about your song "Power" that you wrote. I want to read
Yes.
some words from that song. So
you.
your song here, times have
Thank you.
changed, traditions rearranged. Who says I can't make a move on you? Who says I can't do what a man can do? This is my body. I do what I want. I'm the one who says if I will or I won't. Again, even though this is just, these sentiments are 100 years old, but coming from you in this song, they sound new and dangerous somehow. How is that?
Yeah. Let's keep it dangerous, baby.
Right.
Keep
But
it
they
dangerous.
shouldn't sound new. They shouldn't sound challenging because, like I said, these are old
Right.
ideas. But somehow, as I read the
Right.
words, I'm thinking, can she say that? You know?
Yeah. But
Yeah,
she
I
was me
can't say
too
that.
before she was.
Of course
I
you
was Me
can.
Too before Me Too. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know, the date rape thing was really big during the time I wrote that song. That was
Okay.
the deal. That was my energy. And you know, it says what I wanted to say. I mean, who says I can't do what a man can do? And you know, this is my body. I do what I want. When I say no, I mean no.
Right.
You know, I give it to you if I want to give it to you. Other than that, you know, later for you. As I said, I always try to not make it slutty, but also sexy and
Yes.
sensual. So
Yes.
what I do is I wear latex, but I wear gym shoes.
Uh-huh.
See,
I've
she
seen the
does it
photos.
better
Yeah.
than me.
Okay, thank you very much.
So yeah,
But that I'm trying to have a conversation, especially with women,
Mhm.
that because I'm one female, I happen to be a Black woman in a rock and roll band doesn't mean that I'm doing everybody.
right.
You know what I mean? That I have respect for myself as a woman. We can have that conversation. If I can strengthen you in some way with what I do in my position in the world, then let me do it through my song in the way I want to say it. You know what I mean? It's the same Me Too in the job force, the same Me Too anywhere you go, whether it's a singer or whatever. I don't have to provide you with my body in a very negative way in order to get done what I want to get done.
And,
You know what I mean?
and as a matter of fact, that was one of the things that she could not get past trying to do her solo record, because she entered this world where a woman like her was supposed to at least listen to what was propositioned for her, you know,
Mhm.
and she was like not even entertained, you know, that she would have to explain to people that this is something you just don't do, especially to her, because that's, you know, she was nowhere in the vicinity, you know, not being in the neighborhood. And that power comes from
I think he gets strength from knowing that.
no,
I think you gain power from knowing that I'm not that kind of woman.
no,
Yeah.
no, I enjoy that
Yeah, of
because
course.
because you're doing, that's you.
My
you know,
marriage
you're
was
doing-
stable. I was stable, you know, and you were a man in your man self, and it's all good, you know. But yeah, that was fun stuff. We do that a lot. But yeah, if I made that happen, most of my songs were along those lines. Even "Give It Up," which I wrote with Wizard, that was a very sexual song. There was "All the Way," also very sexual, but in a way, like you said, was very powerful and strong. but not loose in itself. In its
Give you all the
essence.
love.
Give you all the love,
And
which is a
two-sided.
double, in genre. Give you all the love inside, which is spiritually in through meditation, but it also could be a sexual inside of me. And so all of our songs are very sexual written, but they were done also in a spiritual way. You know,
Right.
it's just it's been on your frame of mind.
Everything is on your terms with all your music. I'm hearing again and again, what's so astounding about you and your band is that you decided from the beginning to do everything on your terms. And perhaps because you were African Americans, that in itself is an act of rebellion somehow. It's
Has to be.
remarkable.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. We
You're
didn't
not
have any intent. I'm sorry.
I was just saying, you're not protesting in a way that is acceptable to blacks or whites. You're just saying you are just being yourself, and that is dangerous in a strange sort of way.
Yeah, but it's also important.
Mm-hmm.
Any change is going to be dangerous, and it's up to you to know that the danger is there, even though you're going to make the step. It's like walking through fire with gasoline draws
Walking
on.
through hell.
Walk through hell with gasoline draws on.
Hoping that you don't catch
Hopefully
fire.
you don't catch fire. You know, yeah. I mean, you know, a lot of the things that we went through as a band that eventually we were going to go through, we were naive to it because we were hell bent on being ourselves and just say, if we be good enough, if we work hard enough, it's got to happen because that's the rule of thumb. You work at it, you give it up, you do everything you can, you don't sleep, you stay up all night, you get it right, you do it till it gets right, you do it till it feels right, and it'll happen. The doors will open. That's not always the case. It depends on the plight. It depends on the journey and who you are. Ours was very rewarding in the sense of the Georgia Music Hall. That was a wonderful thing after all these years when you thought people weren't paying attention, they were.
2000.
And they respected us for having done what we did without any too much danger. Okay. Same thing with the Smithsonian Music. You know, it was such an honor. And a band like us, where you say, you know, the most famous band in the world and nobody knows.
Mhm.
But yet there we are, you know, in with the greats, Ella Fitzgerald, Ella Fitzgerald, and who else with there? Sarah
Oh
Vaughan.
God.
It's
Anybody
mounds
from
of
Georgia.
people. Anybody from Georgia, James Brown, we're a part of that. But we don't have a whole wall of million sellers, but our, what's the word?
Musical integrity.
Yes, but our musical
For
integrity,
$5.
that's not, shut up. But our work, our body of work stood for something.
Yeah.